Today I will show you a horror, thriller film from 2017, titled The End. Spoilers ahead. The day has just started and it is already not going well for businessman Claudio Verona. The car that picks him up every day is late and a young man called Ricardo has replaced his usual driver. The traffic is worse than usual as well, although Claudio blames it on the route Ricardo chose and not any outstanding circumstances. When Ricardo turns on the radio, the news reports riots happening in various zones of Rome. Apparently small groups of hoodlums decided to attack at the same moment in near perfect sync, but there hasn't been any official word from law enforcement. Claudio, who is currently trying to review some notes for an incoming meeting, barely pays attention but is still pretty annoyed by the radio in general, so he asks Ricardo to turn it off. He gets even more annoyed when Ricardo asks him to help him get into the economics business, but thankfully, his phone rings and interrupts the conversation. It's Sarah, his secretary, asking him what to do with the client waiting for him. Claudio tells her to offer him breakfast and to keep him there until he arrives, and after hanging up, he tells Ricardo he's sorry for him for having gotten involved in economics. When he finally makes it to the office, another secretary named Sylvia is there waiting for him with coffee and a reminder of his golf game. She's still a trainee, so Claudio tells her to ask for a meeting with Sarah so she can join his team because he likes employees with initiative. Afterward, he rushes into the elevator so he can join his coworker Marta, who refuses to give him a kiss when he asks for one. Marta reminds Claudio that their affair is over and that she's getting married soon, but Claudio doesn't care, because he's been married for 5 years and it has never stopped him. Not being able to take rejection, Claudio stops the elevator and pushes Marta against the wall, saying he misses the old days and not letting go of her when she tries to escape his grip. Claudio continues to harass her, trying to make her admit she liked it, so Marta gives in and says she did, only to suddenly grab his groin and tell him it would have worked out if he wasn't a filthy pig. When the elevator reaches her floor, she gets out after insulting him, but Claudio doesn't seem to mind. In fact, he likes such feisty personalities. After pressing the button to his floor, Claudio picks up a call from his wife Lorena, who tells him about the riots on the news. Things have gotten worse and now there are blocked streets. In the middle of their talk, the elevator gets stuck, but this doesn't faze Claudio because the same happened last month. As he tells his wife goodbye, Lorena tries to get him to buy milk after work, and he gets angry at her for thinking about that when he's in the middle of a complicated day. Claudio presses the emergency button and gets in contact with the maintenance technician to tell him he's stuck and he needs this problem solved as soon as possible because he must attend a very important meeting. The technician checks the system and informs him there's a problem with the power unit on the roof, so he'll send some of his men to check it out. While waiting, Claudio calls Sarah to remind her she must do anything in her power so their client doesn't leave, no matter how impatient he's getting. After lighting a cigarette, he starts hearing some noises outside and tries to call for help, but he's ignored. Claudio gets increasingly angry and calls maintenance again, but the technician tells him he's lost contact with his men on the roof, so he gives him their phone number so Claudio can call them directly. When the technician on the roof picks up, he says they're running a reset of the generator, but they aren't quite sure of what the problem is quite yet, which angers Claudio even more. The conversation is suddenly interrupted when the technician sees something that makes them freak out and run, causing the call to end. Claudio presses the emergency button again to demand some answers, and after some arguing, the technician in charge accepts to go to the roof himself to see what's going on. Getting tired of waiting, Claudio decides to take the matter into his own hands. He takes off his jacket and starts pushing the elevator doors apart. It takes some effort, but he eventually manages to open the first door wide enough for his body to fit. However, the second door gets stuck on a misplaced part and he only manages to open it enough for his head to fit through. The elevator has stopped right before reaching the 7th floor, and this gives Claudio a look into the offices. He asks for help but nobody answers, so he tries to climb through the door gap, but it isn't wide enough for him to go through. Claudio resigns himself to waiting again and gets a new call from Lorena, who is afraid because someone is knocking hard on the door yet they don't answer. He tells her to call the police, but Lorena says the line isn't working, so instead Claudio tells her to lock herself in the bedroom while he calls a friend of theirs, Stefano, to ask him to go check on her. Stefano agrees to do this favor for Claudio, but he does warn him that it may take him a while to arrive because the traffic is awful. When he calls Lorena again to tell her Stefano is on his way, she is even more scared because the news is showing violence taking over the streets. Claudio doesn't take her seriously and just tells her to calm down and wait for Stefano before hanging up. Moments later, he's looking at the news headlines on his phone. They all talk about the strange attacks and blocked roads in Rome. They also mention a lab on fire that was recently evacuated. After lighting another cigarette, he's suddenly startled by cries of help. A scared group of people runs past the elevator, including Marta, who falls to the floor right in front of him. She begs for his help and Claudio grabs her arm, trying to keep her with him, but whatever is on the other side of the elevator doors is stronger than him and drags Marta away. Finally taking the situation seriously, Claudio steps back as fear sinks into his mind. Curiosity gets the best out of him, though, so he approaches the door again to take a look and is startled by two zombies trying to reach inside to catch him. Claudio steps back again until his back hits the wall and can only stare at the strange creatures in front of him that leave as suddenly as they arrived when they hear a voice down the hall. While trying to process what he just saw, he receives a call from Stefano telling him he's almost at his house. Claudio tries to explain what's going on to him, but Stefano doesn't understand him, and the call ends when he's attacked by the zombies on the streets. The next person that contacts Claudio is the technician through the elevator communicator, saying he couldn't find his workers. Claudio tries to explain the problem again, but this man doesn't understand him either, and once more, the call ends when the zombies attack and kill the technician. After crying in despair, Claudio calls Lorena and Sarah, but neither of them picks up. A moment later though, Sarah calls back, and she's in the middle of telling him she's locked up when a zombie reaches inside the elevator and grabs Claudio by the neck. After some struggling, he manages to free himself and moves to take the handrail off the elevator wall to use it to beat up the zombie's head until it dies. Now there's blood on the elevator floor, his hands and face, so Claudio grabs a bottle from his suitcase and throws water on himself to wash some of the blood off. The sight of the dead zombie is getting on his nerves, so he uses the handrail to push it away. Soon Claudio finds something else to keep himself busy. Zombie blood is starting to spread on the elevator floor, so he uses some paperwork he has in his suitcase to cover it and hopefully stop it from going farther. When he hears a noise, he grabs the handrail to defend himself, but it turns out it's just Sylvia. He calls her over and, after telling her to speak in a low tone so the zombies don't find them, he asks for her help opening the door, using the handrail as leverage. Sadly, two people are still not enough to succeed, and things get more complicated when the handrail slips off Claudio's hands, making some loud noise. They can hear the zombies coming, so Sylvia tries to enter the elevator, but the gap isn't wide enough for her either, so she runs away before the zombies find her. One of them arrives right after she leaves and tries to reach for Claudio, but Sylvia comes back then and beats it to death with a golf club she found around. The two of them laugh at the fact she's beaten his boss with his own favorite club and don't see more zombies coming. They jump on Sylvia and feed on her until she's dead. Claudio picks up his phone and checks the news. It seems the army has finally been mobilized. He calls Lorena and starts crying when there's no answer, but after quite a few rings, she finally picks up the phone. She's telling him about a reporter being attacked on camera and people going crazy around the city when zombies find her as well, ending the call when they attack her. After crying over the loss of his wife, Claudio is found by another coworker of his that has been surviving by using a lamp to defend himself. The man wants to enter the elevator as well, and Claudio explains it's impossible, but the man tries anyway, to no avail. His effort makes so much noise that the zombies find him and chase him away. Moments later, Claudio hears a zombie walk by and calls it over on purpose to taunt it and make fun of it for not being able to reach him, only getting more excited with his teasing when more zombies join the first one. He grabs the handrail and starts beating them up, only to get distracted by screaming at the end of the hall. It's his secretary, Sarah. She asks for his help, causing the zombies to notice her and go after her. Even when she enters an office to get away, they just follow her inside. Claudio throws his watch at them, begging them to spare her, but it's pointless. Not knowing what else to do, Claudio searches on his phone for the video of the reporter being attacked on camera. The woman explains law enforcement has confiscated cameras and expelled all reporters from the area, so she's live streaming with her phone after reaching the outskirts of the city. She tells the viewers not to try to reason with the zombies, which she calls possessed people, and recommends getting out of the city right before the zombies jump on her. As if synchronized with the recording, zombies reach the elevator door at the same time, and that's the moment when the power goes out. Claudio watches the zombies while smoking a cigarette when suddenly, he hears some gunshots outside the door. All the zombies fall dead and Claudio takes the chance to call for help, gaining the attention of an armed police officer, Marcello. After making sure Claudio isn't wounded, Marcello explains he's alone and he's lost contact with headquarters, and when a zombie tries to attack him, he easily shakes him off and shoots him with his rifle. After trying to open the doors and failing, Marcello decides to try to fix the generator, so he gives Claudio a walkie-talkie for him to guide him through the building and a gun to defend himself. Marcello leaves after Claudio gives him directions to navigate the floor. He tries to light another cigarette and fails, and as he curses his luck, he accidentally presses the button on the walkie-talkie and sends his colorful words to Marcello, who scolds him for contacting him like this. Such noise could attract the zombies, so Claudio should only call when absolutely needed. After promising him to lend him his lighter later, Marcello interrupts the chat to shoot the group of zombies that approach him, only to inform Claudio a moment later that the stairs to floor 9 are blocked by a pile of furniture that would take forever to move. Claudio takes a moment to calm down and think, and this helps him get an idea. There's been work underway on that floor, so there should be a scaffolding that Marcello can use to reach the roof. After passing by a pile of bodies, Marcelo has no other choice but to shoot a window to be able to reach the scaffolding. The noise attracts some zombies, but Marcelo stays silent and manages to sneak around undetected. After Claudio warns him to be careful because the technicians had been attacked up there, Marcelo reaches the roof and restarts the power. Lights in the elevators are on again, but the doors still won't close. Claudio uses his phone flashlight to look between the doors and finds the misplaced piece that is keeping them stuck. He tries to reach it with his hand to no avail, and his efforts are soon interrupted when a zombie appears at the door gap and tries to grab him. Claudio steps back and retrieves the gun Marcelo left him, which he uses to shoot the zombie. He manages to kill it on his second try. More zombies show up after that one and Claudio hesitates, but thanks to some encouragement from Marcelo through the walkie-talkie, he steps up and shoots every single zombie at the door. Marcelo congratulates him for a job well done, but Claudio is in shock, feeling guilty for having killed people, especially because they were his colleagues and he even knew his families. Marcelo corrects him, they aren't people, they are infected, and Claudio had to do what he had to do, so he repeats that, trying to believe it. His thoughts are interrupted when zombie noises reach him through the walkie-talkie and he loses contact with Marcelo. Not being able to take it anymore, he stares at the gun and starts considering the idea of shooting himself, especially after he looks at some pictures of his wife on the phone. A couple of cops suddenly appear at the end of the hallway running away from zombies and Claudio cries for their help, but they leave before they can see him or hear him. As night starts to fall, despair finally takes over his mind and Claudio puts the gun against his temple, intending to shoot but being incapable to. His frustrated yelling attracts the attention of a group of zombies that are now trying to reach him through the door gap, and Claudio decides he doesn't want to give them the satisfaction, so he puts the gun in his mouth. What stops him from pulling the trigger is Marcelo's voice suddenly calling him from the elevator's ceiling, asking him to open the hatch and let him in. Claudio grabs the handrail and uses it to push the hatch, creating an opening for the Marcelo to come through. After Claudio helps him get down, Marcelo wastes no time and shoots every zombie at the door with his rifle. Afterward, he checks the blocked door before sitting on the floor next to Claudio, revealing the wound on his leg where the zombies got him. Marcelo lends Claudio his lighter and he gets a cigarette in return as Claudio asks him if he has any idea of how this started, since he is a cop and must have been told something by the higher-ups. But Marcelo replies all they were told was that a virus was spawned and it began to spread. They told him it was animal-based, but he doesn't believe it because this isn't the Middle Ages anymore. The virus must have been created in a laboratory and someone lost control of it. Marcelo blames that someone for having lost all his comrades. Out of nowhere, he starts laughing pretty hard, all because he's remembered a joke he heard in a movie he watched with his wife. He shares the joke with Claudio, who doesn't find it funny, but he does take an interest in Marcelo's wife. The two men share some details about their married lives, and Claudio reaches the conclusion he isn't a good person. Moments later, while he's reloading the rifle and the gun, Marcelo starts coughing blood. He tells Claudio that he's going to lay down to rest, and after he's fallen asleep, he wants Claudio to shoot twice him in the head because he doesn't want to become a zombie. Since Claudio refuses to take the gun, Marcelo says he'll do it himself and puts the gun against his head. Claudio grabs it and tries to stop him, so the men fight over the weapon for a short moment until Marcelo punches Claudio in the face to make him let go. A couple of hours later, Marcelo has fallen asleep, but Claudio still can't bring himself to shoot him. He changes his mind, however, when pus starts coming out from Marcelo's wound and he wakes up transformed into a zombie. He tries to communicate with him, but after Marcelo jumps on him to attack him, Claudio shoots him first on the body to push him away, then twice on the head to make sure he's dead. Claudio's leg has been wounded as well, so he ties his tie around it in an effort to stop the infection from spreading. His shots have been heard by zombies and now there's a horde of them at the door, but his gun has run out of bullets. Claudio drops it and grabs Marcelo's rifle instead, which he uses to shoot every single zombie he can reach. The impact of each shot pushes his body back until it hits the wall, and with the final shot, he hits his head and falls unconscious. Some moments later, he wakes up when he hears voices and gunshots in the hallway. There are no zombies inside except for the bodies on the floor, and his phone is now ringing, but it's just the 7 a.m. alarm. Claudio turns it off, but then his phone rings again. This time, it's an actual call. To Claudio's delight, he hears Lorena's voice, who is actually alive and well. She had run out of a house and the military saved her. The call abruptly ends when his battery dies, but this is enough motivation for Claudio to try to escape again. He grabs the handrail and tries to push the elevator piece that is blocking the doors, but he can't reach it at the right angle, so he drags Marcelo's body over and steps on it to reach in between doors with his hand. He manages to grab the piece and take it out. This allows him to push the door all the way and widen the gap. Claudio's finally free. After drinking the leftover water, he climbs out of the elevator and steps over some zombie bodies to reach the hallway. After finding his watch on the floor, he puts it in his jacket on before going downstairs. When he makes it to the lobby, he finds even more bodies, including a legless zombie that drags itself over to him and tries to grab him. Claudio pulls the rifle trigger, but there are no bullets left, so instead he smashes the zombie's head with his foot. As Claudio leaves the building and walks through the streets of Rome, he notices there is no life around, just zombie bodies everywhere. At the bridge, he finds a bottle of milk on the ground next to a woman and, remembering his argument with his wife, he picks it up, causing the woman to wake up and grab his leg. Claudio steps back and is ready to defend himself using the bottle, but the zombie falls dead when the military shoots it from a nearby roof. They're seen by Claudio, who quickly raises his arms and shows them he's fine, hoping they'll allow him to join the refugee shelters. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.